welcome Jada to Sippin' Sunday, the podcast. Very excited to have you on. Can you let the listeners know what you're sipping on or what your favorite drink is?
So right now what I'm sipping on is some strawberry spritzer. It was a gift from my sister. I think it's like brewed in New Jersey. Yeah, it's literally made out of
Ooh,
like strawberries in New Jersey.
that's a cute bottle. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
So cheers to
Yes.
that.
Yes, cheers. I'm drinking my I got made a drink with simply lemonade, some gin, and this blueberry thyme simple syrup I
Ooh.
got from a small business.
Ooh,
Yes. I pulled that together. It was a long day, so we needed it.
that sounds delicious.
It is. It's pretty refreshing. I'm still trying to hold on to summer a little bit, even though now we're getting into fall, but it's fine. So next, as I always ask everybody, what age do you feel like you became an adult if you reached that age yet?
Oh my gosh. I was just thinking about this the other day. I feel like I became an adult like probably this past year. I know that they say that your like frontal lobe like fully develops when you're 25. And I always made a joke that like I felt a pop when I turned 25 and like that's when I knew it was done, like ding. But like I kind of felt another one this past year.
And that's 29 now, right? Or
Yeah,
28? Okay,
29.
yep.
Yeah.
And what contributed to that? Or like what was the thought of like, okay, this is it?
Oh my gosh. So I went on this journey of like not having Instagram anymore. I want to say social media in general, but I was still on TikTok. And I feel like I just learned so much about myself during that time, like not really consuming a lot of like, mindless social media and just like kind of like being myself and like seeing the world through a lens that wasn't like crowded by social media. I know that sounds so cliche, but once I got back on social media, I was like, yo, I feel 10 times older. Wow.
How long were you off for?
I was off social media for 6 months.
Yeah, that's a lot can change in 6 months
Yeah.
for sure, especially on Instagram because Instagram is not what it was when it became popular in like 2014
Mhm.
at all. But I feel like now they're trying to keep up more with like trends instead of just being one thing.
Yeah.
Like something is always new on there, or there's a new feature and everybody doesn't get it, and then you don't know what people are talking about.
Mhm.
It's a lot.
I agree. Yeah.
And on TikTok, you said you stayed on there.
Mhm.
Something to note as well. You're basically like a micro influencer on TikTok with 13,000 followers, which is crazy. So how do you feel about that? Like, what even got you started on the TikTok? That sounded like an old person saying it on the TikTok. What got you started wanting to post on TikTok and like really set goals for followers and stuff like that?
So I started posting on TikTok in like 2021, maybe. Um, but it was like just for fun. I saw that there was like a trend at that point of people posting like faceless things of like just what you're doing in a day. And that's really what I started doing. But like as time went on, I got more and more comfortable like talking to the camera. And I'm still not like 100% comfortable doing that. But I think that like once I was at a point where I really had something to talk about, which is like my debt payoff journey. That's when I was like, okay, I can really take this. Actually, let me give someone their credit. There was this creator. Her name is Brittany Reynolds, I believe. She posted her whole journey, her entire journey from start to finish on TikTok of her moving out of her ex's apartment, moving back in with her parents, paying off her debt every single week, which is how I got like the weekly debt payoff update
Yeah.
idea. She's really the one who I guess like I watched her and I felt empowered to do it myself because I was like, I don't see anybody doing this for the black girls. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a little bit different because like the communities are different. So I started posting more consistently with that. I was always pretty consistent posting, but like I wasn't posting consistent content. But
Yeah.
once I really got into like my debt payoff journey, um, I got more consistent with it because it was really something for like it was something to keep like that dopamine going in my head because like when you're paying off debt, like it can feel very isolating, especially when like I moved back.
And draining.
Yes. And like, girl, I moved back home to my parents' house in like my hometown. Like this is not what I was expecting when I was 29. So having something to look forward to, like posting and like finding community and like finding some sort of camaraderie
Yeah.
kept me going, and that's what like encouraged me to like post more consistently. I still don't have like a goal. I still just like want my first brand deal.
Yeah. Well, you had that 10K, I remember you wrote on your vision board, and then you got that, now you're at 13K.
Which is crazy because I literally had like 13,000, not 13. I literally had like 1 to 3,000 followers for like 2 years. And like once I hit that 10K, it's just going.
Yeah, and that's what social media, that really is my dilemma, that at least for TikTok, I know that TikTok you can grow when you're consistent, but consistent in like one thing or one type of topic because the algorithm really pays attention. I don't have the commitment or dedication to do that on TikTok yet. Because like you said, you for TikTok growth have to be in front of the camera or posting the same thing about one topic. And my brand and business is just so many different things that it's so hard for me to narrow down like, okay, what do I exactly want to post on TikTok?
Mhm. Another thing that I noticed about TikTok is even if you're not posting about like one specific thing, like your personality can be that thing. So I've seen that a lot with like, sorry, I'm getting over a little cold.
You're fine.
I've seen that with like people like Monet McMichael, for example, or DeAndre. Like,
Yeah, no, that's true. And yeah, this is true. Because DeAndre Brown, he was actually at CultureCon last year, and I'm going back again this year. And I'm not gonna lie, sorry. Well, it's not sorry because like I do like him on TikTok. I like him as a creator. I didn't think that that personality translated to CultureCon hosting on stage. That's just my
ooh,
personal opinion. I didn't feel like it translated.
oh wow.
And it could be different, like hosting an event, obviously, versus being on TikTok. Like people are in front of you, stage, all that. But I just didn't think that it translated. It was cool to see him. I'm glad like he was there and he got that opportunity because we want everybody to shine and do what you need to do. But I don't think it translated for me on the stage.
I'm not surprised. I think that like when you are an internet like personality, I feel like you have to like put that you have to really put it on, and it's more comfortable to do that like by yourself. But then when you're like speaking like to a crowd, it's like you have to turn that off because like you have to make sure that like you're engaging with the crowd and like you're answering the questions. Like I can see how it could be different. I could totally
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah. I don't know who's hosting it this year. I can't remember, but I know that Morris Chestnut will be there. That's very exciting. I'm excited to see him. Yeah. And then Karamo and Yara Shahidi, she'll be there. So this will be cool.
I mean,
I'm looking
gotta
forward to
look up.
that. Yes. And so you mentioned your debt payoff journey already, which is one reason why I reached out to you, but also just your journey of moving back home, you're counting down and making your goals to you until you get to 30. You change careers, all of that stuff. So for the debt payoff journey, what was the moment that you're like, okay, I gotta pull this together? Because millennials and Gen Z, we're always complaining about money, how expensive things are, but people don't always go to actually take control of it or do something about it for what they can control in their own finances. So what made you be like, okay, I gotta do something about this?
So there's a few moments. I'm gonna try to go in chronological order. So I think last summer, probably like July, maybe August. I think it was August. Um, I started realizing that like my finances, like I had enough money for the apartment I was in. Like it wasn't a problem affording it. It was just that like I realized I had some sort of like money anxiety, like or something was going on where I would pay my bills immediately and it was fine. But then like I wouldn't pay all of them because like I just didn't want to look at all of them. And then, you know, like I would have to pay like this credit card and this credit card and this credit card. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, like where's my fun money now? I didn't budget for all of that. And I've always been someone who prided themselves on like having a budget and having my finances in order. So I was kind of like, my debt is like eating into my budget a lot for no reason. Like it doesn't need to be there. So I started trying to like pay it off little by little, but that was kind of hard because like I want to live a life that I'm happy with. And like, I don't know, like I got this job and I felt like I should be living a life that I wasn't really able to afford because I had like all these little tiny payments to pay. Like I had my Amex here, I had like my Wells Fargo card here, and then I have like my student loans there. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
just so many little payments. So at that point, I came up with a plan to be debt free by 30. I didn't think about it really. I just said it one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm putting my Amex in the freezer, and I'm going to be debt free by 30.
I do remember that. Yeah, I remember you froze it.
Yep. I literally put it in the freezer, and I wish it was still in the freezer, but here we are, right? And then a few weeks later, in my apartment building, I got stuck in the elevator, and this was like a very pivotal moment. So just like walk with me here. I was stuck in the elevator. It was me and my dog. There was like 6 other people in the elevator. There was no reason why that many people should have been in the elevator, but the elevator fell 4 floors, and it was insane. So when I got off the elevator, I called my parents. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm getting out of this lease and I'm moving back home. I don't know how long I'm gonna be there, but like I just need to get out of this apartment. They didn't let me out of my lease, so I stayed there for another 4 months. I didn't really, like
Housing.
it just was what it was. But when I moved back home, I was like, by the time not by the time like I actually moved back home, but like a little before I had actually moved, I was like, I can just stay there for longer than I was expecting and then just pay off my debt and then move out later. It doesn't need to be
Mhm.
like I'm only home for a few weeks while I look for a new apartment type.
Yeah.
I can just stay for a little while. My parents are okay with it. My dog loves being here. Like it made sense. So that's when I decided I was just gonna stay for like a year and pay off my debt. Um, and now we are like 6 weeks out from paying it off.
Amen. We look at you.
Yeah. So it was like a chain reaction. Like I made the decision that like I was just gonna pay it off, and I had no idea how that was gonna happen. I didn't know if I was gonna have to Uber Eats. I didn't know if I was gonna have to start, I don't know, working another job somehow. But it just worked out where like I needed to get out of my apartment. I was like going to move in with my parents anyway, okay with
Mm-hmm.
it being a little bit longer than a few weeks.
Yeah. And you went from you're from Jersey. You went to undergrad in Jersey, right? And remind me, where'd you get your master's degree again? I
At
forgot.
Florida State University.
Florida
Oh
State. Okay,
no.
so you went from Jersey, Florida, then Baltimore was your first job, right? When you were here in Baltimore.
Virginia Tech
Was that
actually was so Blacksburg, Virginia.
gotcha? I forgot all about you being in Virginia Tech. Then you came to Baltimore and then moved back to Jersey, changed careers because you weren't in higher ed when you were going to Jersey. You had just left and were like, I'm gonna do something else
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
Jersey.
I mean,
Now you're still in Jersey doing this.
yeah.
Okay, got it. And that's connecting the dots, everybody, of how Jada and I met. This was like in 2016, I think, probably 2015, 2016. So a long time.
Yep.
And that's something I really have loved about higher ed, that people that I met are still lifelong friends or connections that have transitioned to other things, or even if they're still in higher ed, they are interested in something else, or there's just other things to connect us aside from that job. Because being out of traditional higher ed, I do feel like sometimes looking back in, I'm like, this is like a cult in some ways.
Yep.
Like you feel almost like brainwashed, and not super bad in like a toxic way. Some schools can be toxic, but thankfully I don't feel like I really had to deal with a college that was like super toxic. But it just still is like very like, it doesn't have to be this way, everybody. But you don't really realize until you're out. You're like, this is crazy. This is wild.
Hmm.
So yeah. And when you left from Baltimore, you didn't have a job then.
No, I did.
You did. Okay. So you had stayed in your job in Baltimore, applying for jobs in other fields, then you left and got the new job. Okay. Got
There
it.
was like a month break. I call it like my fun employment. But
I wish I could be fun employed again sometimes, because I didn't know what I had, and those 2 times went by too quickly. Too quickly.
hmm now I got actual bills and responsibilities, even if I was fun employed. Like it wouldn't be that fun.
Exactly. Exactly. And now, how did you feel like you made that career change too from higher ed? Because now you work in finance. Do you work in finance? Did I make that up?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I don't think I made that up. I was like, maybe I'm thinking about it because of your debt payoff journey, but do you feel like that influenced you a little bit too into doing it?
Yes. Okay. So yes, I work in finance. My actual job isn't like a financial services job. Like I'm a campus recruiter. So I work in an HR function, but my industry is financial services. And just being around so many people that like have investments and like come from generational wealth and just like grew up like understanding the landscape of like what money is just influenced me so much. The way that they talk about money, the way that like just being in that space was super influential to me. I remember I had a conversation with a coworker of mine. He recently got married and he's already saving up for his kids' college fund. Those kids are
No, my friend did that too. Right when they were born, started saving, putting it in the whatever that thing's called, that account.
exactly. So I think that really did influence me a lot. Into just like wanting to be better with my finances because I see how other people are living. And now I'm in a space where like we're making the same amount of money. There's no difference, or there's no reason for me not to be in the same like you know. I don't want to say tax bracket because we're on the same tax bracket, but there's no reason for me to like not have the things that you have when like we have the same
Hmm.
job and we have the same opportunity at this point. So
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think talking about money helps because if you don't talk about it, you don't necessarily know what's attainable. Like
mm-hmm,
just today, I was talking to one of my students. He just graduated high school in June. He doesn't have a bank account, so we were like online doing the bank account stuff for him. And then I was just saying to him that I do feel like sometimes, I mean, just being realistic, that I'm in Baltimore, it's a lot of black and brown people, under resourced, underfunded, all those things, and people just don't have bank accounts there. I know that sounds crazy, but like they really don't,
mm-hmm,
especially in the Cash App era. Like a lot of my students will be like, oh, I use Cash App. I'm like, you cannot use Cash App
yeah,
for like a real thing. But as I'm trying to explain it to him, and I'm saying this out loud to him, I was like, when you think about it, it's like, not why do we need a bank account, but what is the reason that banks like give you all of these issues and problems, and like how do you genuinely explain to somebody why you need a bank account? Like I was really sitting there out loud processing with him, like, okay, you can't use Cash App, but I was like, but you should use a bank because a bank is an actual place you can go to. But I was like, but we got to read the accounts because some of them might charge you. And then I'm just like, this is all scams left and right. Because then he's like, well, should I change it to like one of these other accounts when he either said like when he gets older or something. And I was like, your bank account's not necessarily by your age. Like it was just the conversation we're having. I'm like, none of this does make sense. I really understand your thought of why you're confused because this doesn't make sense. And going back to it, if nobody's told you or talked to you about it,
mm-hmm,
or people in your community just don't even have this, like you're kind of like, why do I need this? Like, what's
mm-hmm.
the point?
Yeah.
So that was an interesting conversation to have, to try to explain why you need a bank account. Because I was like, I mean, your money's deposited to it, but then I'm just like, who started this? Why are there different ones? Why are there fees? Like all this stuff that you're just like, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally understand it from like a younger person's perspective. Like it doesn't make sense sometimes. But once you understand like the financial landscape, like you can understand like one, it's safer, but also like once you understand like how the bank makes money, you can understand like how to make money off of the money you give them. You know what I mean? So
Exactly. And that's what I was telling him. I was like, get a high yield savings account. Like this will give you interest back. Like start saving money. So like just to start you off, let's just open this checking account. But eventually you will need to do a savings account, stuff like that.
yeah.
But it's just like crazy. The world is just, it was made for people to fail, honestly, because with overdraft fees, if you don't know, you're going to get a fee. If you don't pay your credit card, you get interest. If you continue to not pay it month after month, like you get your credit score dropping, then you can't get apartments, you can't get good interest rates on loans. Like it's all a mess.
Mhm.
All a mess. Huh. That's every time we talk about money or like all that stuff, I just get like, this is ridiculous. Like this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, like you said, when you know, but if you look at the bigger picture and keep asking why, it doesn't make
Mm-hmm.
sense.
100%. That's how I ended up in the situation that I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. And pivoting a little bit, So, what are things that bring you joy and keep you motivated, especially going through a debt free journey? And you mentioned before that that can feel very draining and daunting and isolating, and your life doesn't necessarily look like what you thought it would, but doesn't mean you're not where you're supposed to be. So, what keeps you motivated and joyful in these crazy days of adulting?
I think number one is knowing that the things that I want are coming. So, like, for example, one thing that I really like is traveling, and I save up money all year to go on a trip every year for my birthday, a solo trip at that. So, I also do solo travel. Um, so, one thing that like keeps me super motivated is knowing like if I just stay on track, if I save the money I'm supposed to save, like I'm gonna be able to go on that solo trip. It may not be the longest solo trip, it may not be the most extravagant, but like it's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? And like also knowing that like I'm gonna get that apartment and I'm gonna move out and I'm gonna be back on my own. You know, that's
Because you already done it once before, too. So,
and I'm gonna be right back there pretty soon. Which also brings me to like being in the moment and like enjoying the present because I think that that's something that for a majority of my journey I was not doing, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait until the day I move back out, and like I can't wait to have my own place again, and like I'm really just trying to enjoy living with my parents because they're getting old. Okay, that is so sad to think about, but like this is the first time that I've lived with them like as an adult, and like they're actually aging. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have the rest of my life with them. You know, I really want to like continue to build like a beautiful friendship with them now that like they've raised me. And
and now you can be one of their little friends.
exactly, and now I have the opportunity to do that. So that is also something that brings me a lot of joy. Um, and I think another thing that brings me joy is just like just my little hobbies. I also ice skate on the weekends. I
Ooh.
like to go to the beach a lot. I do my nails. I don't know if you can tell, but I literally
Yeah, they look good. Yeah, no, I saw from when you were moving around too.
yeah, I literally spent the whole day doing this because I had to call out of work today because I'm so sick. I hope y'all can't hear it, but I'm sick.
When you just said that too, it reminded me of our Mean Girls when she's like, "I can't come, I'm sick." And then especially because thank you for still being here on the
Yeah.
podcast while you're sick. I appreciate it. But it's just funny because you're like, I can't come to work, but I'm gonna go on this podcast. So see ya. So yeah, you do your nails, you go to the beach, you travel, you save and make goals for things that you're able to do that will keep you motivated and on track. What is one thing, if you've thought about this, that once your debt-free journey is done, what is your treat for yourself? Or like what's your end goal? What's your end like I did it?
I
Aside from the apartment.
I love talking about this so much. So one thing that
Your mood perked up. You said, yes, this is what I'm here for.
so I love bags. I love designer handbags. And I bought too many of them, which is one of the reasons how I ended up in credit card debt. Okay? So I have been looking at this really beautiful Lady Dior for months. It's gonna
Ooh.
be my congratulations gift. Um, I'm gonna get it vintage and used. So her price is pretty good, nylon version. Um, and yeah, I've been watching it on eBay. I've been watching a couple of them, and once I'm done paying off that debt, my next paycheck, I'm gonna get that Dior bag.
We love that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be done before your birthday. So you said that's only a couple weeks left now. We're in September.
My birthday's in February, so I have a few months.
Okay, why did I say weeks? I don't know why I thought that it was a couple weeks. Okay, you got a couple months left.
Yeah.
So how do you get through the holidays? Is this your first holiday in your debt-free journey or last holiday season was?
Technically, it's like 1.5. So last year I moved back at the beginning of December. So I was living in my apartment on my own up until like I had experienced like the first few holidays
Okay, okay.
in my on my own, and then I moved back right before Christmas and New Year's.
Okay. So how are you approaching the holiday season? I'm interested. Like not that I'm expecting you're gonna like ball out, but that's a time for sure that people spend just a lot of money between gifts, travel, work events, friendsgivings, Christmas parties, all the things. People try to travel, all that stuff.
So for one, I'm hoping that I'll be moved out by then, but the landscape of renting is a little funky right now, so I'm not going to put too much pressure on myself. I'm not going to stress myself out about it. But if I am out by Christmas, I'm so sorry, y'all. I would like to do a friends miss.
Oh, cute. Okay.
So hopefully that'll be happening, but more so on a financial from a financial standpoint. Um, I'm saving up for it. I'm really big
Okay.
on
Yeah.
sinking funds and planning ahead. So like I know that Christmas and the holidays are a time that I like to spoil my people. Obviously
No, me too. I'm a gift lover, but also a gift giver. So I'm like, oh Lord, I just want to buy all the things. And
exactly.
you can't do that.
So I'm planning ahead. I'm saving up a little cash. The gifts are not going to be extravagant this year.
And gifts don't have to be. You can honestly like hand make things or like put together baskets that are intentional. Like gifts don't have to be expensive. And that's what I always tell people too when like my love language is gifts, but I'm not saying you need to buy me something expensive and ball out. Give me a bag of gummy bears. Get me these Inkjoy pens because those are my favorite. Like it can be so small that doesn't have to be you're spending thousands of dollars on somebody because that's outrageous.
Exactly. Exactly.
And in the climate too of people saying things are expensive, everything costs too much, like I'll never be able to buy a house, I can't do this, I can't do that. What advice do you have for Gen Z? I mean millennials as well, but Gen Z specifically that are the generation behind us trying to navigate these things?
I think number one is that like you can do it. You totally can. If you need to save up for it, it may take a little bit more time, but you're gonna make it if you want it. Um, sorry. If you need to increase your income and get a second job, then that may be something that you have to do. But you 100% can do anything you put your mind to. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to us hurt millennials talk about, how sad we are about our student loans and, not being able to buy a house. Like you will be able to do it if you just put your mind to it and, really, really lock in. Um, I wish someone had told me that because I think I put a lot of my dreams aside just because where I
Mm-hmm.
work in higher ed, like I wasn't making that much money and, you know the struggle. And I
But sometimes I'm honestly like, my first job was in Florida,
Mhm.
living on campus, so not having to pay rent. I would literally never trade my house to go back to living on campus or not having to pay rent. But sometimes I'm like, does it have to be this expensive? Like, I don't think it does. Economy and world. I just don't think it has to be this expensive. And I definitely wouldn't trade it. Like, I feel like my house for me came at a perfect time that everything was in shambles and then I was like, wow, I have a piece of stability finally having
Mhm.
my house. And I would not trade it. Every day I'm like, wow, there's something new in this place going on. Like yesterday, the manhole outside had water coming out of it. And I was like, what the heck is this? I had no idea that everybody has their own little manhole thing outside. And my mom was like, oh, yeah, like water's coming out of yours. I was like, this is a later problem. I just went back upstairs. I was like, I'm in the middle of working. If you can call the people, call them. If not, I don't know what to tell you because I don't have it in me today to figure out a new challenge in this
Mhm.
home. But I still wouldn't regret it. I mean, I don't regret it, and I would not trade it. But it was like wild.
Yeah. No, I understand.
It's a lot. But I do. I mean, we were talking about this before we actually started recording. I do believe people can buy a home if that's something that you want, and that's something that's a goal. You can do it. You just need to do your research. You need to make sure that. I won't even say. Well, no, I won't. My thought in my head was that you don't necessarily need to save, but that's false because even when I was talking to my realtor and my lender after, because we still have a relationship, and I talk to them here and there, I might run into them and
Mhm.
stuff, but we had done an interview together because I have a blog, haven't posted it, and this was literally like last year, but it's still timely and it's still information that will be helpful when I do post it. I was asking them, like, do you feel like people need to save and prepare? And they said yes. And I was like, well, I don't really feel like I did that. And they're like, no, you did, because you were putting money into your retirement for so many years. And that's how you were able to help with the down payment for yourself. And I was like, you're right. So that's why I say you do need to save, but it doesn't have to necessarily be like in a savings account per
Yeah.
se. Like, you can use your retirement, and it's not bad to use it. Cause I was freaking out. I was calling my sister and my dad. I was like, are you sure I can take this money out? Cause like they told me I can't do it till 58 and a half, and I'm not trying to mess up anything with the government here, people. So what do we need to do?
Yeah.
But you can do that, and that's fine. And aside from like your debt payoff journey, money, I wish money didn't come up as much in conversation, and like the mindset around it. But unfortunately, like that really is what helps you do almost everything you need to do in life. Like, people say money can't buy happiness, and I just am not a believer of that. Because if I didn't have these student loans, if I didn't have like debt and stuff to pay, I feel like I would be way happier.
Mm-hmm.
And you wouldn't have to worry about all the things you're worrying about.
100%.
Like, yeah. But is there anything else that you want to highlight just about your journey, where you've been, what you've been going through, or like just tips, tricks again with your career pivot? Because I know I mentioned that before, but then this money part just keeps getting us.
Mm-hmm. I think when it comes to the career pivot, although being in higher ed for so long, like I wasn't making a lot of money into like my mid 20s, late 20s. And that was like a big reason as to why I ended up in credit card debt. Um, I wouldn't trade it. And I want the listeners to know that, like, even if you're not in like the best place right now, even if you feel like you made a poor decision in the past, um, it's still making you who you are, and it's still taking you to where you need to be. So my mom, she often, when I start getting on myself about like being in debt, she tells me that I wouldn't be the person that I am today without being in credit card debt, because it literally kept me alive. It literally kept me afloat. So me being in higher ed, me not making that much money, me not having financial literacy at the time, like, yes, that wasn't the best. And if I didn't have those things, I wouldn't be who I am right now. Things may be different. They may be better. They may be worse. Who knows? I don't know where I would be. But I know that, like, I'm happy now, and things are just going to keep getting better. And that's because I had to go through those things in the past. So I think that
Exactly.
if, one of the, like, our listeners, you know, that, yeah, literally wherever you are right now is where you're supposed to be. And if, yeah, I think I lost my train of thought, but I
No, you're fine. I believe that as well, for sure. Because I mean, I've said on here, like, I do have credit card debt as well. I still have student loan. I was not paying those student loans back when they told us we were supposed to pay them back, but I started. However, the communication has gotten so confusing from them, because I paid it, I re-enrolled, but then like when I logged back on, they're like, oh no, you don't have a payment again because they paused or whatever. I don't know what they got going on with the government student loans, but that is just a problem in itself that is going to have to figure itself out, because I don't know.
somebody's gonna
I
have
don't
to figure out
understand.
these student loans, and it's not gonna be us.
And for your student loans, because like you're on debt payoff, that's specifically for credit card debt.
Yes.
Okay. And you've still been paying on your student loans, but you haven't like gotten over to that part to tackle or figure out.
Yeah. So my debt payoff journey is like a very long journey. Um, right now it is just consumer debt. So my credit cards. When I say debt free, I mean like consumer debt free. So I won't have any more credit cards. I won't be making those additional payments. Once I pay my car off in the next year, which is the next thing on my plan, once I'm done paying off
Hmm.
my credit cards, I'll be rolling over additional money into my car, and then I will have that paid off within the next year of moving out.
We love that for you.
Thank you. And once I'm
That is
done
great.
paying off my car, I'm going to get a little more serious about my student loans. But The only thing keeping me from like really worrying about my student loans too much is that like I think that there's going to be some sort of reform that comes before
I
like
think
pays
so
off.
too.
So I don't really want to stress myself out too much about that. And I'm also not going to live with my parents until I'm done paying off my student loans. It's
Hmm.
factored into my budget, and I'm just going to have to pay them. But I still don't think that student loans are anywhere near as heavy as a credit card. And
Yes.
my lowest credit card interest rate is like 21%.
No,
Highest
exactly.
student loan is like 6.
7 or 8, yeah. No, I do agree with that. And that's why, like, when the student loan part was coming back around, I kind of was like, okay, student loans aren't as crippling to our financial journeys as we think. I know that when I was applying for the apartment that I had before I moved to my house, like it comes up in your credit report, but they know it's student loans. And most people now know that the average person will have student loan debt versus before when school was not as expensive and it wasn't the same as what's happening now. Like they kind of would be like, why do you have so much debt out? But when people know it's student loans, they're like, okay, I got it. I understand.
Yeah. I think it's the same for medical debt too. Like I think it's factored separately. And as long as you're making the payments, like they're factored completely differently into your credit report.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Money, I tell you,
Yeah.
it does not grow on trees, but we wish it did because this is a wild time.
I always make a joke that like money is hard to come by, so whenever I get it, I try to save as much as I can because it doesn't grow on trees and you're not just gonna find it walking in the streets.
Not anymore. Remember, you used to be able to get a $5, $10, $20 bill on the ground somebody dropped, but the way that everywhere went cashless, you're not gonna find any money on the
You
ground.
know?
Zero. You're gonna find pennies and coins, but that's not gonna get you anywhere.
Yeah. And the landscape of
You're,
things just in general, I remember when I was younger, I used to get free samples in the mail. I would like sign up for something, they would send me a free sample and it was like a full size product. They don't do that anymore. Oh my gosh, for you to get a free sample nowadays, you have to put in a credit card.
yeah, because then they're gonna keep getting you.
Yeah, so literally things are not free like they used to be. We were living in some great times back then.
We sound so old. Like every time I'm just like, this is crazy. Why is it like this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then before we do close out, I almost always forget this, but then this is why I look back at my notes on here. You have a chance to ask me a question that you would like to know.
When did you feel like you were an adult?
Oh, well, that's a good question. I mean, usually I bring it up, but nobody's directly asked me that. Um, I feel like I felt like an adult when I moved to Miami. So I was like 23. I think I was turning 23 or 24, 23, 24. Because at that point, I had just graduated with my master's, moved to Miami, first full time job, my own insurance, paying like my car insurance, having more, not even more bills, but like taking on things that I didn't have to worry about before. And then, even though I lived on campus for like undergrad and in grad school, this was again like living on my own in like a full apartment, like 2 bedrooms, dishwasher, all that kind of stuff. And that's when I feel like I felt really like an adult. And then I would say kind of like how you were mentioning before, like the revelations that you had for your debt payoff journey. I feel like again, I really felt like an adult obviously getting my house because I was like, this is really leveling up again. Um And then I would even say in this past year, there's been moments when I'm like, okay, I'm an adult and like I got it now. Like we don't need to keep reminding me I'm an adult. Like something similar to what you're saying about your parents. Like my mom had emergency surgery in March. And obviously emergency, it was sudden, not planned, out of nowhere. But like I was like, oh my God, like I really have to like be running up and down in the hospitals, like doing stuff that is for somebody else that again you're not prepared to do. Like it just happens and you're like, wait, like what's going on? I just have to kind of like be in go mode. So that was definitely like a okay, I'm an adult, like, I'm a responsible person, like I gotta do things for other people or be present in other spaces that like I didn't have to before. And even with having god kids too, because like I'll be around them. It was so funny because my friend came to visit with her husband and my god kids, and they're in the back seat, obviously in their car seats. But she was breastfeeding my goddaughter, and like I'm just so used to again jumping in my car, turning it on, zooming out. And so she's in the backseat breastfeeding her. She's like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "Oh, yep, can't drive because there's a baby not secured in the car seat." And so for me, that's a moment that's like, oh, I'm an adult. Like I got other people in this vehicle that are babies that need to be cared for.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I think about that all the time. Like once I have a kid, life is just gonna be so different. I try to enjoy life without kids and a husband.
No, I love having my god kids because I can't wait till they're old enough to come out here and just stay with me because they can stay as much as they want. We'll do everything, and I'm gonna send you right on back down to Florida with your parents. See ya when you come back. Let your parents know when you want to come. You're welcome here. But it's just funny because I'm like, also like not watching stuff. I don't watch anything crazy. I enjoy being with them because I love watching Gracie's Corner with them,
Mhm.
SpongeBob. Like we all love the cartoons, but it's still just funny when you're like talking to them or interacting, and you're like, oh wait, like you're a child. Like I got to remember, like not disciplining you, but I have to be the responsible one
Yeah,
and like teach you. I can't just be lackadaisical, letting you do whatever you want to do.
yeah,
Yeah, life. It really comes at you fast because I just sit and I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
yeah, yeah. You gotta enjoy
I
the peace and quiet while you have the peace and quiet, because one day you're gonna want to go back.
Yeah. And I can say too, like, I feel like once the pandemic happened, that was a really big revelation that I was like, I have lived a life that I am pleased about and happy with because I know a lot of people when the pandemic happened were like, oh my God, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Like, we don't know what's going to happen with the world. Like, I'm worried about if I'll have an opportunity to do this. But at that moment, there was nothing that I was like, I wish I had done by now. And that's kind of just overall how I live my life that like if tomorrow something happened, would I be pleased with what has been happening so far, like what's been going on? And that's not to say I don't have goals or I don't have things I want to do, but if something was to happen tomorrow and life was to significantly change, like would I be okay with the things that I've done, the experiences I've had, places I've gone, and things like that?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's how people should live your lives. Because, like you mentioned earlier, too, we're not here forever. Parents are getting older, aunts, uncles, cousins. It's it's a time, a
Mhm.
time.
You know, you bring up COVID. I think that thinking back on COVID, there was never a moment where I was like, "Oh, I wish that I had done this before COVID hit." But now that COVID is over, I wish that there was more things that I did during COVID.
I agree with that for sure. I can for sure agree with that. Like, I think that COVID happened and it was like, we have never experienced this before and we don't know what's happening, but let's just see how this plays out. And then, like, a week turned into two, turned into three, turned into months, turned into years. And then we're still like processing it for sure because there's things that we have realized have not gone back to how they were. Some for that are good, some that are like, okay, this is kind of inconvenient and annoying. But then others that are just like, oh, I'm just now realizing like I might not have seen a family member in 4 years. I'm just now realizing like I haven't been on a plane in years or been on like the subway. And it's just so interesting to think about because people aren't taking into account that no one's life has been the same since COVID, and some people's lives still are not the same
Mhm.
at all.
Yeah, I think everyone's life is different. I think the world is different. COVID, at the time, COVID was super scary, but I think that COVID did the world what needed to be done. It really was like some 2020 clear vision stuff. Because, like, we realized what was important. I think that work has been like much more lax. I think families come together like stronger.
Yeah.
I think that, like, COVID really, really gave us what we needed. It really slapped us in shape.
Yeah, it really did. And I feel like that with this coming election season we're getting into, not having to get into specifics and stuff, but I am just like this is still going to be interesting no matter what direction it takes. Cuz on one side it's new and different. On the other side, we've seen it before, wasn't the best situation. And if that was to happen again, would it be worse? Would it be the same? And even the same seems bad. So, like, what is this going to look like? And then I think that on either side, they're still going to be bringing up 2020.
Hmm.
And on the one side of who has been here before, he greatly contributed to 2020. So, like, why are we forgetting that in some regards? That, like, this past president, Mr. Robinette, Joseph Robinette, is off of the effects of the previous president. And I think people are forgetting basic government that, like, get back to social studies. Somebody walks into what their predecessor did, and you can't change the world in 4 years. Like, come on. We've lived through this as too many times to know that the past person affects the next person, that person affects the next person, and so on and so forth. And I'm not a social studies teacher. I'm not in the government stuff. Like, I can't tell you all the ins and outs, but I know basic processes and concepts here. So I'm like,
Yeah.
people, just do something, please.
You know what I've learned the most about this election season now that you bring it up? It's really shown me who has like um what they call it, media literacy. Because I think
People don't read. They don't
Mhm.
read at all. And they take the one thing and run with it. It will be like the sky was blue. Well, so and so said yesterday the sky was purple. And I actually saw that it was orange last week. So it can't be blue. Like,
Right.
what? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really made a lot of people show their true colors.
yeah. And I just, yeah, I think people need to learn how to read. You need to do your own research off of social media.
My ongoing joke
That's the
is
biggest
it's
part.
too free. Free to be on here talking like you are. It's too free. Use the internet. Google it.
And Google, again, a credible source, like not your aunt reposting something on Facebook. Like, get to a news source,
Mhm.
see both sides of the
Yeah,
situation, or don't. At least just look at a credible source from something and then make your judgment and decision on that. Because I just don't. I don't get it. I don't get when you're seeing people just post stuff. And it's not even just about election. This is just general. People will take something and run with it with no type of concept. Or they repost something and then they realize it was like the wrong thing or it was fake. Like, nobody's looking into anything.
I appreciate the fact checks now on Twitter. Because like it'll literally people can fact check you and it'll come up under it and it'll say this is not.
On Twitter,
Yeah.
wow. That's cool. People need that these days.
Firmly believe that if you're not going to do the research and you're not going to like inform yourself, just like don't say anything. Just like absorb the media and just like don't talk about it. But
And that's what I'm saying, like with for me for like politics. I'm not making any statements on here that are telling you what to do or what not
right,
to do. I'm telling you my basic facts and opinions of what I know and what I think. And that's that. I'm not over here pulling up an article like, oh my God, look at this. And then the next day it's wrong. Like, what?
absolutely.
Yeah. And then just before we head out, is there anything else about adulting to the listeners? I feel like you definitely shared a lot of good messages. We got off on tangents about higher ed, about the upcoming election season, the things that you're looking forward to when you pay off your debt, how you got started, all of that. Any last words about adulting, messages, revelations, thoughts you've had?
I think the biggest thing is just go easy on yourself. Like I needed to learn to go easy on myself because I've made big financial mistakes and I have to deal with those now. But like, it's fine. The best day to plant a tree was last week, but second best day is today. So
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna write that down. You said
the first best time to plant a tree was last week. Actually, I think the actual saying is 100 years ago, but the second best time is today.
okay. I can look at it.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So thank you again for being on here. Let the people know where they can find you on social media. Follow her on TikTok. Let's get her up on the 1,000. She's already at 13K. So where's all your social media that they can find
You can
you?
find me at Toledo's. I know that sounds a little funny, but it's Toleedles. Like Lee, Toledo.
But I love SpongeBob around here. And then obviously it'll be in the show notes and the links. You can click it and it'll be tagged on the Instagram, all those things so you can find her. But thank you again. I really appreciated having you
Thank
on.
you for having me. I've enjoyed it so much.